We are now building the deck on round 3 and have started with a couple of deck beams for support. Last week we also built a barrel sauna that we've been dreaming of since we moved into the farm. A new week on the build, and Johan is planing wood for a special frame that he's building.
So I've been thinking quite a lot on what type of core material to use in those areas on the deck where I have removed the PT foam. Those high load areas where we have the cleats and the windlass and areas like that. And my initial thought was to use marine plywood instead of the PT foam or some hardwood. But after some thinking, I think I will try something else. I've been looking around online, and I know that there are these panels that you can buy. They are called G10 panels. And it's like a solid laminate from epoxy and fiberglass. And you could get them in different thicknesses. And the upside of those is that they are really sturdy and strong. And it doesn't matter if you get water for some reason in the deck, they can take that. Which of course is something that could be a problem if you have plywood in the deck. But the downside is that they are really expensive. Just a small piece like this, 25 millimeter thick, is around $80, $90. And I need quite a lot of it. So instead of buying it, I will try to make these panels myself from scrap pieces of fiberglass. This is a bit over half a square meter, and the epoxy together with the glass, a panel like this, 25 millimeter thick, will cost me roughly $140 to make. But that's still way less than it will cost to buy a G10 panel of the same thickness and size. But I don't know how hard it will be to do this. One risk that I see is that you could get exothermic runaway from excess heat, that the epoxy just goes off way too fast when you're building up a pretty thick panel like this with many layers in one go. But I think we should be okay, and it's already quite late in the evening now, so the temp has gone down a bit. And also it will take some time, so I'm thinking that the excess heat in the underlying layers, the first layers, will come off, will have time to come off during the time that I'm laminating. And hopefully that will be enough so we don't have any excess heat in this and a runaway of the curing process. And then at the end I will put this plate on top which fits exactly in this frame, and put vacuum material on top and then press it down and see if we could get a fairly flat panel with this more or less the same thickness overall.
I counted to 33 layers.
Yeah, this felt like it took forever. And it is pretty late. It's 1:45, so 45 minutes longer than I thought it should take. Yeah, and I really lost count on how many layers I put down there. It was a lot. It felt like, I don't know, 30, 40. It will be interesting to see how in level this will be, because it was quite hard to, after a while when it stacks up, it's kind of hard to tell, do I need to put some more cloth in this, on this side, or, but I think I made a decent job. Now it'll be interesting to see if I can get everything separated, because as you can see here, there's some epoxy that has leaked up on the sides, a lot more than I thought there should be. So we'll see how I'll solve that. I think I have to run a saw down the sides here. And the actual process went very well. There was no problem with any exothermic reaction. It was a lot of work, but if this turns out well, I think it will be really great to use this also for places like the tracks for the head sails, for the Genoa cars, areas like that. Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, it's been a pretty cold night, and I haven't had any heat on this, but it's 40 degrees Celsius. You can see these wrinkles here in the plastic, and that's because when I'm laying down this many layers in one go, there's really no chance for me to get the vacuum pressure on there before these first layers have started to harden. Because when I will use this as a core in that deck section, I will just fare in these wrinkle areas with some thickened epoxy just before we laminate on top of that. So. Yeah, like I suspected, I need to do some sanding here on the edges and also here in the middle. It's a bit rough, but it's a sturdy piece. Very, very strong. Yeah, and it's a bit uneven in thickness. Also something that I suspected could be a problem. It's 25 millimeters over here, and down here it's down to 23. I can fare out the rest of that when I fill in these pieces.
Johan cuts out the pieces for the cleats and stanchions first, and then the one for the windlass. The solid fiberglass pieces will now be laminated together with the PET foam. Before laminating, Johan adds some thickened epoxy to even out the surface. Three layers of fiberglass goes on. The top side that will be laminated when the deck is in place will have one more layer. While Johan prepares the deck piece, I would like to thank everyone who supports our production, and especially all of our patrons. Since we're not a TV production company, but doing everything ourselves, it wouldn't be possible to make these videos without our patron support. If you enjoy our videos, we would be so happy if you would consider joining the crew. The PET foam fillets will be mounted to hold up the deck along the hull sides. The fillets also gives the fiberglass the correct geometry when tabbing the hull and deck together.
So the first deck piece in place, and yeah, feels fantastic. And it's like, again, a new perspective. You can really see now the curve of the deck, even if it's quite slight up here. Yeah, you can see I have used some epoxy fairing up here just to make that transition between the deck and the bow cone. There are a few low spots, you can see up here and back here. And I'm thinking that I will sand everything and fill those dips with some more fairing before we start laminating this. And the inserts, the homemade G10, turned out really good. It was a lot of work, as you saw, but they are really strong and sturdy, these points now. And this plate here, where we're going to have the windlass and the anchor roller, will also get tied in to the bulkheads and the stem up here with knees, and then tabbed in with glass on the underside as well, so that it can take a lot of force, upward force as well. And it's the same with these points here, these inserts for the cleats. You can see there's a bit of a nose up here in the front, and that's where the pipe for the pulpit is coming down. So we have something strong and sturdy to connect that to, and then we have the cleat behind that. And on the inside I will add some knees before we laminate there and tab it into the hull, so that we are spreading the loads from the cleats in the best possible way. The goal is that this area should be a really strong point on the boat. So I will also connect these two plates with carbon fiber underneath here. So when you get a sideways pull on this side, those loads should get helped with being transferred all the way across the hull, so that we're not risking of pulling out the side of the hull here. But more about that later, because right now we can't access this area because we don't have the hole for the hatch yet. And that's because we don't know exactly what type of hatch we'll have. I'm thinking now that we might take up a smaller hole so we can get in there and do the rest of the work that needs to be done. But the final size in that hole, we're not so sure about that just right now, because yeah, it depends on the size of the hatch we're getting. So the next step now will be to cut the next two pieces of the deck, and the challenge will be how we're going to laminate this, because this front piece here, it's pretty easy to reach across with the rollers to get it laminated in place, because I don't think we should walk on this right now, because it's a huge difference in stiffness in a panel like this with only having one side laminated. I can push on this now and you can see it moving, but with the glass up on top it will be super stiff and strong. But I don't want to put my knees and my full weight on this, so for this area I think it will be fine just to work with ladders and this platform. But the next two pieces will be a bigger challenge, because there the hull is much wider, so it will be a challenge to reach across. So I'm thinking that we should maybe start with laminating the forward section here, so that we can sit in this area as well when we're laminating the next two pieces.
How cool is it that we will soon be able to walk on the deck of round 3? That is going to be a really cool feeling. Or you might not be able to walk because we're not able to stand straight up here because we're pretty close to the ceiling. But we can sit, we can lay down and get a feeling of what the deck space will feel like. And you have a really nice transition from the more curved deck to the more flat area up here. So I'm just roughening up the fairing, because I will add some more fairing to different places up here where we have some dips to make the surface completely fair. Second piece for the deck.
Yeah, half of it, and this time we're going to cut two pieces in one go and then fold it open like this, and it will be the shape of the rest of the foredeck, more or less.
Back to tabbing again.
Du bör lyfta den lite så ja. Ligger de uppe på där?
Ja. Ligger uppe på kanten, ja.
So another piece of deck in place, and as you can see it's quite big, quite many square meters, and yeah, it's obviously too big to do in one go for different reasons. One of them is that the table is a bit too small for this, and secondly, because we only do the back side first, and lifting a big panel like this up on the deck and get it in the correct position without both laminates in place, that's asking for having cracks in this PT foam. So we need to divide it somehow, and my first or initial thought was to divide it the way it is now, down the middle like that. But seeing it in place now, I'm thinking it's better to divide it in this direction on top of the beam that sits roughly around here. Because that way it will be a lot easier to get the fair curve when you're pressing it down on top of the beams. And it will also be easier to join those two pieces on the back side, because then we just glue them in place on top of that deck beam with thickened epoxy and tab it in slightly on the sides of the beam. If we do it the way it is right now, we need to make a long tabbing in between all of the beams. And that tabbing needs to have the same thickness as the general thickness that we're using on the laminate. So it will be a bit more complicated having the joint in that direction, I'm thinking. So I'm going to make a cut straight over here, join these two pieces together and start with laminating those. And that will fit good on the table as well. And it will be a bit easier to lift that piece up here, get that glued in place, and then we move on and do the next piece, which we might connect to the rest of the deck. You can see there's a slight gap here that I left out because that piece has a slight curve on it. But now when we cut it here, maybe we can add that piece as well and do that as one piece. And here you see the cutout for the next stanchion. Here we're going to have the same type of G10 that we used up front, and we're also going to stack a few of them and glue that and tab it into the hull, so that we later on can drill a hole and insert like a stud, a solid stud that we then later on can have the pipe go over the actual stanchion. And I think that will be a really sturdy way to do it, and no leaks, no bolts going through the deck. Yeah, and what else? Yeah, we're going to have a deck hatch here in the center, but for the same reason that we don't have a hole up front, we don't know what type of deck hatch we're going to have, but it will sit roughly around here in the center of the boat.
Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you again next week. Bye bye!